I want to welcome everybody. My name is Jim Valentine, and on behalf of the Valentine family, we want to thank you for attending a long-awaited, long overdue military honors for Sergeant Major Walter Gabriel Valentine, also known as Dad to 6 children, Grandpa to 15 grandchildren, Great-grandpa to 26 great-grandchildren, Wally to his mom and dad, his 2 younger brothers and younger sister, and Val to mom and his friends. This military honor is all Dad wanted after he passed in April of 2020. In just a moment, I'm going to introduce Mike Frazee, Dad's favorite deacon and friend, to share a few words. Mike?
Good morning, everyone. I'd like to share a scripture passage. It's a little bit long, but hopefully at the end, and my words that I share with you will make sense. Reading from the Gospel of Luke, chapter 24, verses 13 through 33. Now that very day, 2 of them were going to a village 7 miles from Jerusalem called Emmaus. And they were conversing about all the things that had occurred. And it happened that while they were conversing and debating, Jesus himself drew near and walked with them, but their eyes were prevented from recognizing him. He asked them, "What are you discussing as you walk along?" They stopped, looking downcast, and one of them, named Cleopas, said to him in reply, "Are you the only visitor to Jerusalem who does not know of the things that have taken place there in these days?" And he replied to them, "What sort of things?" They said to him, "The things that happened to Jesus the Nazarene, who was a prophet mighty in deed and word before God and all the people. How our chief priests and rulers both handed him over to a sentence of death and crucified him. But we were hoping that he would be the one to redeem Israel, and besides all this, it is now the 3rd day since this took place. Some women from our group, however, have astounded us. They were at the tomb early in the morning and did not find his body. They came back and reported that they had indeed seen a vision of angels who announced that he was alive. Then some of those with us went to the tomb and found things just as the women had described, but him they did not see." And he said to them, "Oh, how foolish you are! How slow of heart to believe all that the prophets spoke! Was it not necessary that the Messiah should suffer these things and enter into his glory?" Then beginning with Moses and all the prophets, he interpreted to them what referred to him in all the scriptures. As they approached the village to which they were going, he gave the impression that he was going on farther. But they urged him, "Stay with us, for it is nearly evening and the day is almost over." So he went in to stay with them. And it happened that, while he was with them at table, he took bread, said the blessing, broke it, and gave it to them. With that their eyes were opened, and they recognized him, but he vanished from their sight. Then they said to each other, "Were not our hearts burning within us while he spoke to us on the way and opened the scriptures to us?" So they set out at once and returned to Jerusalem, where they found gathered together the 11 and those with them who were saying, "The Lord has truly been raised and has appeared to Simon." Then the 2 recounted what had taken place on the way and how he was made known to them in the breaking of the bread. This is one of my favorite scripture reading because it talks about a conversation that's taking place with the disciples of Jesus Christ. And it made me think of all those days that I had discussions with Sergeant Major. I made the mistake one time with him to call him sir, and he corrected me very quickly. All the Marines understand that Sergeant Major say, I am not sir, I work for a living. So from then on, it was always Sergeant Major Valentine. But we had discussions, and it was about his life and mine as we sat there in the backyard watching the rabbits every now and then, watching the birds go by, and we would share stories, similar to the two disciples we hear today in today's scripture reading. And those stories, most of the time revolved, and almost all the time revolved around family. Family was so important to Sergeant Major. He loved his family. He loved Blair. He loved everything about what he did. He was a true Marine. Semper Fi was the way he lived. Forever faithful. Forever faithful to his God, to his family, to his country, and to his friends. And we had those wonderful conversations, and the one thing that was always there is I would walk up, I'd walk in the backyard, he'd be sitting there in the patio, and sometimes I'd startle him a little bit because I know he was deep thought. And then he said, wait, I'll be right back. So we bring you, would like some coffee? Yes, Sergeant Major. How about a little Bailey's? No, wasn't in his vocabulary. So he would bring me back some coffee with Bailey's, and he and I continue our discussions. And they were so enlightening to me. I learned so many things from Sergeant Major and everything we talked about. I was more appreciative through his discussions of how I felt about my own family, my own faith, and those who served in the military, especially the Marine Corps. And it's just a wonderful thing, and I still can close my eyes and I can see him sitting on one side of the table, I'm on the other side, and we discuss. And that is how we are all supposed to do, to share our stories. That's why we're here. We're here to share the stories of how Sergeant Major has affected our own lives. If we look around, we can see who he affected, not just his family, but all the friends that are here because of what he meant to each and every one of us. Today we come together to honor a faithful Marine. We come to honor a faithful servant of God. We come to honor a friend who will be with us forever. And I know the family, as Jim said, is very grateful for everyone that is here. And for me, it is an honor to be here to say a few words about my relationship with Sergeant Major Valentine. Semper Fi. Well,
thank you, Mike. I appreciate that. I'm going to attempt to do a Reader's Digest version of Dad's military and community service. After that, we're going to have the military honors. And Mike alluded to, after the taps are played, we're going to gather around Mom and Dad's gravesite and have a toast. We're going to pour some Baileys. We've got some other beverages if you don't partake. And that'll be a time, if any of you want to share, if any of you want to share any memory, that'll be the time. As Mike alluded to, Dad was the Marines' Marine. Born a Valentine of Italian immigrants on Christmas Day in Springfield, Massachusetts in 1924. He finished high school just before the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor in 1941. He finished high school just before. Like many of the greatest generation, he enlisted in the military. He may have lied about his age. After boot camp in South Carolina, he went on to advanced infantry training in North Carolina. And then in 1943, he was assigned to the Marine Corps recruit depot here in San Diego. He was quickly shipped out to New Caledonia. Anybody know where New Caledonia is? In the South Pacific, where he was trained to be a scout sniper. Needless to say, Dad was always good with a rifle and a pistol, and we all knew that. He sailed to Guadalcanal the next month and joined the 3rd Marines. He then participated in assault landings at Bougainville and the recapturing of Guam, a very strategic site. In February of 1945, Dad participated in the Battle of Iwo Jima and received some shrapnel from a grenade, and then he returned to Guam. He participated in a battle where uncommon valor is a common virtue. His personal highlight was experiencing the historic flag raising on Iwo Jima. Dad returned home, fell in love with Mom, and they eloped to Niagara Falls. They may have lied about her age. Mom's dad, our Grandpa Kavanaugh, he was so upset, he threw everything Dad gave to Mom out their apartment window, including the stereo. Stereo and all. Shortly thereafter, Dad shipped off to Korea, and as a staff sergeant, he participated in the landing of Incheon, Korea, and Chosin Reservoir. Dad returned to the U.S. as a gunnery sergeant. During his active years, I've mentioned this before, at Mom's service, she was pregnant 10 years in a row. And Dad always said she had the harder duty. After Korea, our family was stationed in several locations: Massachusetts, South Carolina, Virginia, California, Ohio, Hawaii, and back to California at 4 locations. Dad was promoted through the ranks and topped out as a sergeant major before he shipped out to Vietnam in 1966, where he served 2 tours, one with the 9th Marines at the DMZ and the other with Huey Cobra jet helicopters in Dubai. He returned home in 1969. He had received over 30 decorations. He was most proud of his Purple Heart, as you'll see on his uniform, and particularly proud of his Crew Combat Wings that he earned in Vietnam. He retired from active military service in 1973. Thereafter, he joined the civil service at Camp Pendleton and coordinated pre-retirement seminars for over 20,000 Marines. Over the 30 years that he was there, he transitioned them into civilian jobs. And I might add that during Dad's civil service years, he was president of the Sergeant Majors Association, and he was the local chair for the Toys for Tots drive. Over 60 years of faithful government and community service. Semper Fi, Dad, and God bless. that concludes the military honors for Sergeant Major Walter Gabriel Valentine. We'd like to take a short break before we gather all around the gravesite. I want everybody to, if you haven't done so, check out Mom and Dad's gravestone. It's awesome. And we'll put together a toast for some Baileys. We have waters. I know it's getting a little warm in the Yeti cooler over there. I think somebody's pouring already. So grab something to drink and gather around the gravesite. And if you have anything at all that you'd like to share, a memory, a fun story, we'll do so after the toast. Thank you.